Hello everybody, welcome back to Piano Practice Partner. It's super exciting. We are on lesson number 5, 6? Oh, I'm gonna have to check my own YouTube channel now just to have a little look. We are at 49 subscribers. Hello, welcome. And we're on lesson number 6. We're on lesson number 6, everybody. Calm down. I haven't skipped anything, I haven't missed anything. It's got a little bit confused. Wow, halfway through the month already. How very exciting. Last time we were looking at inversions. So I hope that was fun. Just to quickly recap what an inversion was. It was very simple. It was much simpler than I think I initially thought it would be, and felt far less intimidated after a little bit of practice. So I hope you feel the same. So an inversion, let's take C major. We know C major very well by now. C, E, and G. Now if we wanted to make an inversion, all we would do is we'd take the notes and just reorder them. So rather than having C on the bottom, we might place C on the top, so then it would become E, G, C. And if we wanted to make another inversion, we would just take the now bottom note, which is the E, and put it up to the top, so it would become G, C, E. And if we did that again and put the G on top, so it would be C, E, G. We're back to our initial position, just an octave higher. So very quickly, we've created more depth and color to our playing, because no longer are we bound by playing the C major in this position every time we have to play a C major. We can now vary where the C major is played by using an inversion. So we did that for C, and then we did the same for our F chord. Just putting a root F in the bass here. So we would then just take this bottom note again. So that's F, A, C. We'd go A, C, F. And then we'll take the A and put it in the top. And then we did the same for G. And then we did the same for A minor. So very quickly over the last session, we've taken the chords that we've been learning over the past few weeks and suddenly added a wealth. I haven't even done the maths on that. So we've taken what? There's 1, 2, 3, 4 chords, and each of them has 3 different variations. So suddenly, instead of the 4 chords, we've got 12 different versions at our disposal. Amazing how quickly we're rattling through this thing. I hope it's making sense and it's not too quick. But I feel very excited by the fact that, oh, actually, there's multiple things we can do from the knowledge we already have. We're not having to learn like super complicated things yet. There's a lot we can do just from the basics. We've spoken about why one might use inversions as well last time. So if we were sticking on the C major, for example, we could then vary the texture and the color of the sound by switching into the inversions. So we're still playing C major, but we're adding the inversions to give it a bit more variety, so it keeps our ears entertained as something is changing, something's shifting. We also spoke about arguably a more important reason why we might use an inversion. Depending on what chords we're playing, we might have to pick up our hand and move it quite a distance to reach the next chord we want to play. However, if we use an inversion, so let's take that C and the G here. Now we know that our C, C, E, G can be played as E, G, C or G, C, E. So if I chose this inversion to play my C, to get to the G now, all I have to do now is move these 2 fingers down a whole note each, and I'm playing a G. So rather than having to pick my hand up and move it quite a distance across the keyboard to play the 2 different chords, I can quite easily just use an inversion on the C and then move to the G here. And then if I wanted to go to the A minor, say we're all playing Let It Be, I'm now just moving 1 position up. So there's less movement then. Sure, you could argue that this isn't that overwhelming a distance to cover, but in principle, it gives us more options. And the more options, the more we have at our disposal musically. It's not just for comfort, but we can play that. If we played the verse 1 here and we want to slightly vary it for the second time round, we could then, instead of going there, we can play the C up here. And then back to the original position. And then let's use the inversion. You hear that variation, it's just quite satisfying. That wasn't the end of Let It Be, that was just something else. So inversion's really, really handy. Okay, enough with the recap. That's quite a long recap, but really cool to cement it in our brains a bit further, because we're making new neural pathways, and repetition is really, really key in allowing those brain waves and neural connections to gel together. So hopefully you're on board with me just doing a quick recap of last week at this week's lesson. But today we're going to be looking at something that is very important in music. I've got my whiteboard here. We're going to be looking at what is referred to as a 2-5-1. 2, 5, 1. Now we've spoken and we've used Roman numerals before. Rather than saying C, we might say 1, the 1 chord, or the 5. Because just to recap, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 in C major. It helps us talk about a structure more handily than going F, G, C, A minor. And why that's useful is if we're then playing in different key later down the line, and we'll get onto this, it's nothing to panic about now, but obviously we're sticking with C major for now because it's the easiest one to understand, and the reason being is that we are exclusively using these white notes. There are no black keys within C major. There's no sharps nor flats. They're all these white keys, and so it makes it easier for us at the stage that we're at to understand. Now, if we were going into a different key, so for example F major, you'll notice, and don't worry about not knowing F major right now, you'll notice there's a little black key here. And so our 1 to 8 is different, because if 1 was here on C, well, we're now starting on F. So this is our new 1. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Rather than, for argument's sake, if we were in C major and we're saying play D, play G, play C, because that is our 2-5-1, and I'll go into that in a second. If we were in F, someone's like, we're playing the song in F and it's a 2-5-1, and you know, oh, D, G, C, that doesn't fit in F because the F is our new 1. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So now we can quite easily identify, because if we know the structure 1, 2, 5, 1, we know where the 1 is. We know where the 2 is. So it's taking care of these two. And we just need to count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So there's our 5. It's the C. So 2, 5, 1. And we know 1 to 8 in C major. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So 2, 5, 1. So it helps us, learning the Roman numerals helps us quite easily pick up the concept that we're learning, the structure we're playing, and apply it to any other key that we may be in. Now that doesn't need to happen right now because of where we're at. We'll get to that. But understanding why we would do this rather than just saying, why don't you just say D, G, C? Understanding why we would use a Roman numeral will help us later down the line, because we can hopefully apply the knowledge more easily and fluidly. Anyway, I digress. 2-5-1 is really important to know. It's used all over music. There's too many examples to list. It's used a lot in like pop and modern music, but it's also used a lot in jazz as well, which may or may not be your bag. I happen to love jazz, but it crops up everywhere. So let's just break down in a bit more detail what the 2-5-1 is. Like I said, we're in C major, and so we know our 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And we've already, in that little quick garbled explanation, identified that the 2 would be the D, the 5 would be the G, and the 1 would be the C. So I will write that down here just for clarity's sake. What am I doing? G, sorry, not a C. The one is the C. I'm going to put brackets, and I'm going to put C major there, just so we know. But this is what we're focusing on. It's a 2-5-1 of C. So D, G, C. Very good. Now we can play this in the chord form as well, because you know that feels quite fun. But but maybe it'll feel richer if we add what we know about our chords. We know how to play D. We know how to play G. We know how to play C. Great. So this very simply is what we would refer to as a 2-5-1. So why are we learning this? It feels maybe like, oh, it's just 3 chords. It's not like when we're learning the Beatles and we're going, we learnt it as 1, 5, 6, 4. This is just 2, 5, 1. But we're learning it because it's one of the most common and one of the most important chord progressions in Western music. And like I said, especially in jazz, this thing crops up all the time. So we're going from the 2 chord here, this D. But what we haven't understood yet is that this isn't a major chord. We haven't really looked at this properly because we've learnt C, F, A minor, F major, and then in Let It Be, we just played these as single notes. But really, much like the A minor when we were moving our hand positions, and we discovered that this wasn't a major chord, even though the hand positions are the same as this G major here. It's actually a minor chord. This is the major. It's the same for D here when we're using all white notes. So if we raise this third, that becomes D major. But actually, in this position, it's D minor. So this 2 chord is actually the minor 2. And that's very important because this sequence would sound very different if this was a major 2. You hear the difference? I'm going to play the major version. Sounds odd, doesn't it? It's not necessarily wrong, but we're interested in playing this minor 2 chord. So we go from the minor 2 to the 5 chord, which is known as the dominant. It really stands out. And then we resolve to the 1 chord, which is known as the tonic. So I'm going to write this down as well. So we've got the minor 2 here, and then we've got the 5, which is also known as the dominant chord, and then the 1 is known as the tonic. So we've got the minor 2, the dominant, and the tonic. And what's so beautiful about this structure is it allows movement within the chords and resolution. So to get a bit like theory-y with this, and why music is so appealing to us, we're essentially posing questions and answering them. In a lot of great music, it feels like there's something being proposed and then something being resolved. If it was all answers, like a story, if it was just answer, 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 it would be pretty boring because there's no mystery, there's no intrigue, there's no tension and resolution. Really, good stories and good storytelling poses a question and then along the way answers that. And so you've gone on a journey with the storyteller. And it's the same in music. We're looking to create tension and then resolve that tension or relieve that tension. And this is what the 2-5-1 is doing. So the 2 chord, the minor 2 chord, which you can really feel as a minor now that we've identified that's what it is, leading to the 5, if we just left it there, what happens? It feels like we're left in suspense, right? You want to know, you want to close off that loop. And by going back to the 1, everything's all right again. It feels like that there, you need something to come afterwards. And that's the beauty of this sequence. The minor 2 to the 5 to the dominant proposes some tension. And then we have to move to the tonic, the 1, to resolve that tension. Now, me talking like that might feel a bit holistic and a bit, hippy dippy lovey woo woo tension, resolving tension. What is music? But you can hear it, right? If you do play that, would you be satisfied with that ending? And some songs will do that and leave it ringing, but it's an intentional thing to leave you with suspense. The story's not complete, the song's not finished. You're left to your own mind then to think, how does that song end? Where does it leave the storyteller, the singer's journey, the musician's journey within that? It's done intentionally. But playing that one afterwards, you can feel it. You resolve that tension and you bring it home, which is why it's the tonic. It's back to the one. It's back to, this is where we've started, right? If we're in C major, it's our one. We're coming back to the one, to the tonic, to come back home. So let's just try that now. So let's play that D minor, the minor 2. So it's D, F, A with a D in the bass. And then up to G major, which we know and love. G, B, D. And then down to the C major. C, E, G. Amazing. We've learnt the 2-5-1 structure, and that is the same in any other key. 2-5-1. It will just be the same thing. You're identifying the minor 2, the dominant, which is the 5, and then the tonic, which is the 1. So we've understood the theory and the concept behind it, and now as we progress through the different keys, we'll be able to come back to this and quite quickly and easily identify how to play this. Now, some of you, the more perceptive of you, will have realized when I was playing just then, occasionally I did that. So I was using an inversion of G major so that I wasn't having to go from the D minor here up here. Wasn't having to do this big leap, because that is, again, quite a big leap from D to G, but then also back down to C. So I played the D minor here, and I just moved these two fingers up to play the inversion of G. Because if we take our G, we know it's G, B, D. Well, I was already playing the D minor chord, so my finger was already here. So I just had to move these fingers up. And then that's much easier to move to the C as well. So or we could add two inversions here. We could play the D minor, the inversion of G, and then we could also play an inversion of C here. So all I've done there is I know it's C, E, G, so I've just moved my thumb up to E here. Here's my G, and adding the C here. So not only have we learned something brand new, we're now applying what we learned last week, inversions, and very quickly understanding we can play this all in its primary position, or maybe we can sub out one inversion, or we can sub out two inversions. Amazing. Well done, everybody. We're going to be seeing a lot of this, I think, over the next couple of weeks. Maybe not next week. We'll let ourselves digest this and work some inversions for ourselves. But this is it in its most basic form. Because what we want to be able to do is to add other inversions to this to make it sound a bit more spicy. And then add extra notes, which we haven't really looked at yet. We haven't looked at things which are referred to as sevenths and ninths and flattened sixths. It all sounds scary, but it's quite easy to understand because we know 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And so if someone says add a seventh on a chord, you're adding the 7th note of that sequence. So C major. Well, if this is our 8, the octave, you're just adding the note below it, the 7. So this would be a C major 7 chord. I'm getting ahead of myself. It's just to hopefully placate any fears you may have. 7th, 6th, 4th, what does it all mean? We know what it means. So it's just a case of breaking it down slowly and applying it. And actually there's some really exciting things you can do with the 2-5-1 by adding in things like a 7th here. See how that already changes from this to a bit more jazzy. There's the 7th there as well on the C, which we just learnt about. So there's lots to discover. I hope that's all okay. I hope that wasn't too much information, just quickly garbled out. But just to sort of give an overview of where we may be heading with this. It's really important to understand the basics and the simplified version to begin with, to then start layering on top. The more robustly we can understand this as a concept, the more we'll fly later down the line. So well done, everybody, for turning up, continuing to practice and to learn. Thank you very much. Make sure you drop me a comment below to let me know how you're getting on. Say hi, and I'll see you next week. Happy practicing. Peace.